throwing my glasses, throwing my mugs, throwing my books, throwing away everything at the point that they broke. And my room became a mess. And I was screaming like crazy, even though the trigger is actually, it's not even a trigger, it's a very small matter.
Hey everyone, welcome back to my podcast. Thanks to every one of you who listen and learn from this podcast. Today, we are going to talk and exploring the many dimensions of mental health. Our aim is to bring the latest information, expert insight, and personal stories that shed light on the challenges and opportunities that come with caring for your mental health or mental well-being. We explore a wide range of mental disorders, from anxiety and depression to more rare and complex conditions. Let's dive into the topic with my special guest today. Please welcome my dear friend, Mineo. Hi Mine, how is it going?
Oh my god, I'm actually nervous, but I'm also excited. Thank you, Hansa, for giving me the opportunity to be here.
Yeah, it's my pleasure you are being here. Actually, I have a plan to talk with you to continue my previous podcast talking about mental health. So finally, you are here. Yeah, before we start the conversation, could you tell me a little bit about yourself? Where are you from? Are you a student or working right now?
Okay, so my nickname is Mine. I've always been Mine since junior high school. Actually, my first name is Jasmine, but I don't like that name. And I was born and raised in Lampung, but right now I'm currently staying in West Java right now. And I'm a student. I'm a final year student, final year English literature student. So I study English, but to be more specific, I study English linguistics. And yeah, I also work as a translator and as an private English tutor. I think that's it. And the reason why I come here, okay, so bear in mind that I'm no expert at this, so my answers would be very personal, and I'm just gonna tell you guys my experience and the answers from the point of view of someone who is currently undergoing this situation. So I think, yeah, it's very personal for me.
Okay, thank you, Mine. So today we are going to talk about the wide range of mental order like anxiety, depressions. What are some common signs and symptoms of depression?
Okay, so according to what my psychologist told me, we have to differentiate between mood disorder and personality disorder. And as far as I can know, depression is one of the many mood disorders. So it's a type of mood disorder. So depression is basically when you feel like life isn't worth to live anymore, when you suddenly lose the joy of living and you feel a constant sadness. So even just to do a little thing may seem very hard for people who are undergoing depression. So yeah, I did a minute research, and I will just read you guys the common symptoms that people with depression may face. Feelings of sadness, tearfulness, emptiness, or hopelessness. And for me personally, I did face this. Back in 2021. That was the beginning of me getting depressed, I think. That was the game point, I may say. That you feel numb, that you cannot feel happy anymore. And then after that, you will get an angry outburst, irritability, or frustration, even over small matters. And then loss of interest or pleasure in most or all normal activities, such as, we can say sex, hobbies, or sports, because usually those kind of things are the ones that make us happy. But people with depression, they just cannot enjoy it anymore. And as for me, back then, I had joy reading. I had joy watching YouTube videos. Like, those are my hobbies. But by the time I got depressed, I lost all the interest that I had to do those kind of.
You say a mood disorder, like your mood probably changed from I just know, like just good mood and also bad mood. Good mood is mean like I'm really happy, and then a bad mood is like I don't want to do anything literally, and then yeah, it's really bad mood and I feel sad. But good mood and bad mood is common, like everyone probably feel the same thing, like probably good mood and then change because something happened because of like problem, they're gonna be like bad mood. So what makes this mood disorder become like a mental disorder relating to mental health?
Okay, that's actually a good question, because what is the boundary to define you are getting diagnosed with a clinical depression? And yeah, so here's the thing. We have to make a difference between feeling depressed, which is actually normal, and having a depression, because it's two different things. People in life, there are a lot of ups and downs in life. So sometimes if we feel depressed, it's totally okay, because it's just a phase that you will like overcome, and then we will be happy again, and then maybe one day you will face a problem that will trigger you to get depressed. However, having a depression is a whole other thing. Because why? Because mood disorder is actually when you get mood swings, an extreme mood swing. Like when you feel happy, you feel too happy, and when you feel sad, you feel too sad. And for people who are clinically diagnosed with depression, you feel way too sad than normal people would feel, and it's actually constant. Like it would last for years or even for eternity. So let's take this example. People who get depressed, this is a normal not a normal depression. I mean people who get depressed, normal people who get depressed, they will feel depressed because of a trigger. There is a trigger behind it. For example, you are having a problem with your family or with your loved one, or you're having a problem at school, for example, and then it causes you a trigger. It triggers you to feel depressed. But by the time you overcome the problem, you will feel happy again. However, people with depression, they just cannot feel joy anymore. I know a case where there is this guy, he is 40 years old. So he was depressed. And no one knew about it. Why? Because he hid it. And he experienced that for like 20 years. He had a good life. He had a good, loving family. He had a good job. Like his performance at his work was excellent. But you know what? He ended his life. He took his own life. You say that doesn't? Yeah, he suicide. He had a suicide. But you see, most people would think that doesn't make sense. He lived a normal life. He seemed normal. But he took his life. Why? Because it's an illness, guys. So here's the thing. People with depression has a different brain systems. I may say, I don't know how to say it in a professional way. Our brain, the wires in our brain, people with depression have a different brain system than normal people would have. Like we feel extra tired, we feel extra sad, extra anything.
Extra tired and extra sad. So mood disorder is like people who easily extremely change from good mood to bad mood immediately, right?
Yes.
So how about like the time and period? Like somebody probably had a a bad mood in long terms. Like this week, I'm really bad mood, always every day. It could be called disorder in your mental health.
Okay, so according to what I know, I only know two types of mood disorder, or maybe three types of mood disorders. Number one is depression, major depressive disorder, and then major depression. And then number two is bipolar disorder. So the difference is when you are having an MDD, major depressive disorder, you'll feel a constant sadness for a long time, and it could last forever maybe if you don't get a proper treatment for that. And for bipolar, it's different. So bipolar is like you have two poles. Like you have an episode, we may say. So we have an episode where we feel happy and we feel we have too much energy. We're just having too much energy at the point that we cannot go to sleep. We will get insomnia. Yeah, it's called manic episode. And there is another episode called depressive episode. It is when you feel a constant sadness, and it will happen for example, 2 weeks of manic episode and then another 2 weeks of depressive episode. Or maybe you will not get manic episode for a few months. You will feel depressed all the time, and then suddenly your manic episode will appear again, will pop up again. So, when it comes to a bipolar disorder, you just cannot expect anything. It's like, it's hard to detect, It's hard to tell. You cannot foresee when you will get manic or when you will get depressed.
So basically, bipolar have like different personality. So
It's
when in
different.
another episode you are in different symptoms and change to another personality.
It's actually not a personality, it's just your mood, because personality is an entirely different thing than what a mood is. You are still you, but your mood is different. So you may seem like a different person, but you are still you. Yeah.
Okay, come back to mood disorder. What are the major cause of this mood disorder? It could be probably people surrounding of you, or friends, or because of your overwhelming job in your work probably.
It could be a cause. So, there are two things when it comes to mental illness. Number one, it could be inherited from your parents. So, if someone in your family has it, there is a big chance that your children or your grandchildren will have it too. In my case, there is a high chance that my father actually has it. And on top of that, I do get the trigger from my parents. So the cause or the root of my mental illness is actually my family. So there might be two things. And especially for me, I think it's a combination of both. It's inherited from my dad, and I also got, I also got triggered by my family matters. So as for me personally, I am diagnosed with both bipolar disorder and histrionic personality disorder. So I'm diagnosed with both of these disorders, and they can appear interchangeably. And yeah, that's it.
So how did you know that you are in the condition that you are in bipolar? I don't know, like I have this kind of disorder or not, or I need to come to psychiatrist, or just okay, I have some diseases in myself, like mood disorder or personality disorder or bipolar. How did you know this?
Okay, so actually, thanks to the internet, we can actually do a mini research by ourselves, because that's what I did first in 2021. Like, I did a research trying to find out what's actually happening to me, and then I was in denial at first. Not until I finally decided to talk to a counselor. So the difference with counselor and therapist is that counselor, that they may not have the degree yet. Maybe they are a graduate from a bachelor degree of psychology, but they can help you sort it out. And at the end, after having your one-on-one counseling, your counselor will tell you whether you need professional help or not. That's the easiest way. So actually, we can try to find the symptoms by ourselves, especially if it has become physical. What does it mean to be physical? For example, you get anxiety attack or even panic attack. You get tiredness, lack of energy, agitation, restlessness. Like you get tired again and again, you don't have any energy, or you have a suicidal thoughts, or maybe you even do self-harm. That was the mark for me. Like when I first, for me, it was like turning off and on a light switch. Suddenly the depression was on my mind. There was a day when I was completely normal. No, I wasn't normal. Like I kept crying because of during the pandemic. Yeah, I kept crying. But then I was thinking of, oh, crying doesn't help me anymore. So maybe I should just kill myself. That was the first time when I realized there was something wrong with me. And then I did like a mini research of having depression, like doing the mini quizzes on the internet whether I have depression or not. And then I was in denial actually at first, but I told my friends about it. And thankfully, I have a lot of friends who are like majoring in psychology and like nursery and like math students basically. And then they tell me that I should immediately seek for professional help, especially from psychiatrist, because in my case it has become physical. What does it mean? I already have suicidal thoughts and I do self-harm. These kind of two things, I have to tackle these issues by the help of medicines, because this is what my psychiatrist told me. Oh, you cannot have a therapy yet. You cannot have a psychology therapy yet because you still have a distorted mindset and it needs to be fixed with medicines. And after I took meds for a few months, I finally decided to go to psychologist. So I go to both psychiatrists and psychologists, and I think people should know the difference between those two.
Well, so how about the emotions, like unstable emotions or lost the temper easily to get mad or something like this is related to mental disorder as well?
Okay, so unstable emotion, that's basically what having a mood disorder and personality disorder feels like. So your emotion is very unstable and extreme. Like when I get angry, I would be very angry. So in my case, I would just give you an illustration. In my case, when I get very angry, I don't know how to channel the madness, the anger, and I would cut myself. I would do self-harm to release my anger, or I would break things. Like there was a time when I was in a really bad shape. I was angry back then because of my ex, and I was like breaking things. Like I was like throwing things, like throwing my glasses, throwing my mugs, throwing my books, throwing away everything at the point that they broke. Like, and my room became a mess. And I was like screaming like crazy, even though the trigger is actually, it's not even a trigger. It's a very small matter. It was just because when I tried to call my ex, he didn't pick up. And I called him for like 100 times and he didn't pick up, and he didn't feel sorry about it. And it made me feel that way. It's extreme. It's really extreme. And when I'm too happy, I would be too happy. And I would like for example, when I feel happy, oh my god, I want to shop, I want to go shopping, I want to do something, I want to buy something, and I would, because I feel too happy, I would end up impulsively buying things that's way too expensive or things that I don't need. It is the example for that.
Okay. So even like probably just small thing, you get easily to get mad because of
Yeah.
unstable emotions.
Yeah.
Okay. So how about like overthinking? You have like just the same thing, probably the same problem, but you keep thinking in your thoughts that it could be the big thing for you, and you talk with yourself. You over and overthinking about this, the simple thing. It could be, we can call it like mental disorder as well.
It depends on how severe it is. Actually, it could be called a mental illness or disorder if it disturbs your daily life. For example, having an overthinking. For example, you are overthinking about what people think about you, but as long as it doesn't harm you in any way, I think it is still considerably okay. But if it is something like, for me personally, when I was in my overthinking phase, I kept thinking about suicide. I kept thinking about wanting to die, and it never stops. It never stopped. Like back then, my mind, it was really noisy out here in my head. Like it kept talking like, just die, go die. Or when I saw a knife, I would like, use it to your hand, cut yourself. When I was like on my way with my friends, and then we were riding a motorcycle, I would say that just like jump from the motorcycle. And there was actually a point where I almost jumped from a hotel room, but my ex was there to like, and he protected me. He tried to handle me not to jump, you know? Yeah, it's something like that. You know, like just bang your head in the walls. It's something like that. And if it's become like that, I think it is the turn point when it becomes unhealthy and it becomes a problem.
Okay. So what kind of help we can get if we have the symptoms like this, like a mental health, a mood disorder, or the kind of this?
Number one, you really have to talk about it with your closest ones, like your parents, your friends, anyone that is in your surroundings. So they can make sure that they can, take care of your condition, stuff like that. Because sometimes the problem with people who are experiencing symptoms like this, they would be in denial, like, no, I don't think I have a mental illness. No, I don't think I have a mental health issue, which they probably actually have, you know. So the point is that you have to tell your closest ones, and if it's become really severe, you have to seek professional help.
So first, you need to talk. You need to be disclosed or open with the closest one. Like not always your family, but probably your friends, your partner, your spouse if you have already a partner. So be open and be disclosed. It's the first thing you need to do if you have the symptom like this. And then after that,
you go seek professional help. But this is the problem. There are only a few psychologists and psychiatrists in Indonesia. Like, I read an article from 1%, which is stating that the total amount of psychiatrists and psychologists in Indonesia is only 2,000. Imagine, we have like 300 million people in Indonesia, and among all the people that live here, there are only 2,000 people. So you may try talking to a counselor first. There are a lot of online counseling with a counselor, not therapist. So you can try to talk to them first to determine whether you have to go and seek professional help or not. And don't be in denial, because I think especially in Indonesia, we are a pretty much conservative countries. We still think of mental illness as a taboo thing that no one wants to talk about, which is actually sadly sometimes some people will still like think that way. But I think we are facing a more modern era where people would be more accepting when it comes to this kind of thing. And I would also state the difference between psychiatrists and psychologists. So the difference is psychiatrists give you medication. Psychiatrists give you meds. Meanwhile, psychologists give you therapy or counseling session. And yeah, that's it. If you go to psychiatrist, you will be given medicines.
Okay,
That's
so
what-
if I don't want to see psychiatrist or therapist, but I just want to take a medicine like antidepressant, or I just want to buy medicine without prescription. Is that okay?
As far as I know, you cannot do it because it has to be bought with prescription. Why? Because you don't know only your psychiatrist know what is the best medicine that you should take when you are having a certain symptom. So I think it would be a very rash decision if you decide to buy medicine without prescription. So in my opinion, you shouldn't buy it that way.
It's really prohibited consuming medicine without prescription.
Yeah, and sometimes you don't even need meds sometimes.
Okay. How about the price or the cost if you have to come to see psychiatrist or therapy in one season?
Okay. Actually, it's ranging to a wide range. For example, I happen to be very lucky. Since I stay in West Java right now, I go to Clinic PIP Unpad, and it's really cheap actually over there. It only charges me 200,000 rupiah. It's considered cheap for a session.
100.
Yeah,
For one session,
2,000.
200.
For one session, yes. It's
How many hours?
1 hour.
1 hour, 200.
But psychiatrist is obviously more expensive. Why? Because alongside the counseling session, you also have to buy the medicines. As for me, a month, it would take me around 500,000 to 600,000 rupiah per month.
It's quite expensive,
Yeah, it's expensive.
So what kind of help we can give to other people if your friend, probably your family, have a symptoms or mental illness?
Okay, so number one, you should be a very good listener. You should listen very well to what they're going through and then do a research of whether they are actually mentally fine or not. You have to be aware of it as well. And if you see a certain symptom that you think would harm your friend or relative, you have to immediately make them go to seek professional help. That's very important. You have to be understanding and patient. Being patient is the key because, sometimes it could be handy to handle people with mental illness or mental disorders because we're crazy. Sometimes it could take a lot of patience to actually handle people like me. And I'm lucky enough that I'm surrounded by people who are very understanding and supportive. Not only my partner, but also my friends, my family. The moment they know about my condition, they take an extra care for me. I'm very lucky, and I think you guys who may listen to this and maybe doubting yourself, being in denial whether you have it or not, just talk it out. Even a random stranger on the internet may help you, on Free for Talk. I get a lot of good friends from Free for Talk.
Okay, so I read some book related to mental health. So basically, the initiate problem is like childhood trauma or bullying when you are a child in school or probably from your friends. So how to avoid like bullying or childhood trauma probably from your friends, from your parents, from your relative? How to avoid this? Just make sure that, oh, I'm okay with this. I'm okay. I don't want to it's become a big problem and will affect with my mental.
When it comes to children, it's really hard because children's brains, they are still developing, and that is like the peak moment of your life. Yeah, like I think it is very understandable for people who get mental illness because of their painful childhood memories, because when you are a child, your brain is still developing, and maybe it can create a wire that is connecting you to depression or PTSD or stuff like that. So actually, and getting bullied is not a choice. Having a problem with your relative is not your choice. So if you are facing this problem, you have to tell your parents about this. You have to tell your closest one about this. Here's the things. A lot of people, they're too afraid to speak up about getting bullied because they don't want to be ostracized. Is that even a word? They don't want to be pitied on. They don't want to create an even bigger problem. But please tell your closest ones, tell your relatives if you need help. That's the key, because this is a difference. If your illness is tangible, meaning that you can see it. For example, you get you get a headache, you can feel it. You get broken bones, you can feel it, and it's tangible, you can see it, it's visible. Your brain will be aware that, oh, I'm sick, I need to go and seek the doctor. But people with mental health issues, because mental illness is intangible, you cannot see it. So it's harder to detect whether you have to go and seek help or not. You have to be very open about it. It's not a taboo thing anymore. Yeah, that's it.
So it's like mindset, right? So if you get bullied, you need to fight against them. You need to fight back, or just surrender, or just feel like, I don't know, this is my condition right now, probably I need to fight back, like bullied or body shaming or something that will affect with your mental health.
There are actually two things in my mind that may help in the situation. Number one is that you have to fight back, but in a smarter way. What does it mean? For example, you get bullied at school, tell your teachers about it. Try to find an evidence about it. Tell your parents about it, but try to find an evidence first about it. Maybe recording it or something like that. And then number two is mindfulness. You have to try and take control on your mind. Don't let it consume you. For example, you get bullied, but I think you will survive if you try to be mindful about it. It's okay, it's not my mistake. It's their mistake, it's not my mistake. And if I can tackle this, it shall pass. It shall pass. Maybe something like that. And there are actually a lot of books, maybe a lot of articles, a lot of application to help you to be more mindful, to help to maintain your mindfulness. Actually, I'm no expert, so I'm just talking about from my point of view as someone who overcomes it.
Okay, well, interesting conversation. But we limited by time, So before I wrap up this conversation, you want to say something related to mental health or mental disorder?
Yeah, I want. There is something that I really want to tell. Please don't think of a certain stereotype of on people who are facing mental illness or mental disorder. For example, people who are on their depressive episode, they are not lazy. Even just to get out of the bed, even just to, like, for example, you have the urge to to do your business in the toilet. Even that is hard for us. So it's not laziness, but it's a condition. So please remove all the bad stigmas that you have in your head on people who are facing mental illness. Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay. Thank you, Minnie. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Hansel. I have fun talking with you.
Yeah, it's really happy you being here. I think we need to continue our conversation in the next episode, if you don't mind.
Oh, of course. I'd love to.
Okay. Thank you, guys. I think I'm gonna wrap up this conversation, and we're gonna take another podcast in another episode, probably with the same guest or another guest. So thank you very much, and bye-bye.
Bye bye.